There's a belief factor that's incredible in television, and it's not true in any other medium.
Gilligan's Island may seem like one of the least believable shows of all time, but somehow it connected with audiences enough to have real letters sent to the Coast Guard to get the castaways sent home. Keep watching to learn about some secrets the Gilligan's Island cast tried to keep hidden. Where did the idea come from? A show can often get away with plenty of ridiculousness if it has heart. Gilligan's Island had it in spades. The idea apparently came to creator Sherwood Schwartz in a dream. His daughter, Hope Schwartz Juber, said, quote, "His thought was that the island is like Earth. We're all stuck on it together, so we need to figure out how to live together." That guided the entire rest of the series. Why was the boat named the Minnow? Gilligan's Island may have been built on a message of unity, but that doesn't mean it couldn't throw a few cheeky jabs at those who didn't believe it. Gilligan's ship, the SS Minnow, is one of the most well-known parts of the show, but why was that name chosen? It was disparagingly named after FCC chairman Newton Minnow. He had once said TV was nothing but a vast wasteland. The creator of Gilligan's Island thought television had plenty to offer and decided to name the boat after him. The cast didn't believe in it. The cast of Gilligan's Island had no idea how popular it would become. They believed they had attached themselves to a sinking ship. Natalie Schafer was excited to film the planned pilot in Hawaii, but that was it. Joey Green, author of the unofficial Gilligan's Island Handbook, said she assumed the show would never be picked up. Other cast members weren't confident either. When Tina Louise accepted the part of Ginger, she expected to be more of a central character. She admitted she didn't see a long-term future for it, saying,
"I thought it was going to just last 6 months, but..."
Even the star, Bob Denver, wasn't sure. He had already been the star of a quirky sitcom and wasn't sure about doing another. His widow, Dreama, says his love for physical comedy won him over, as well as his connection with Alan Hale. Gilligan's Island lasted 3 seasons and was reportedly canceled to put Gunsmoke on the air. The original pilot got delayed and almost lost. It's almost fitting that the pilot of a show about a crew stranded out on an island got delayed. The first episode, called Two on a Raft, aired September 26, 1964. It wasn't the first episode that was planned. The details of the characters in the original pilot were entirely different. Ginger and the professor were played by other actors. Mary Ann didn't even exist yet. Instead, there was a blonde airhead stereotype named Bunny. The professor was also only a high school teacher, and Ginger was a secretary instead of a movie star. Another thing that made the pilot unique was when it finished filming. It wrapped on November 22, 1963. That was the same day JFK was assassinated. The cast was in Hawaii, so it took a bit for the news to reach them, but they huddled around the radio for updates. You can see a small reference to the assassination in the Season 1 opening credits. When the SS Minnow leaves port, you can see the American flag flying half-mast in the background. The producers decided the original pilot was a rough draft and put it in the archives. It might have stayed there forever if an employee hadn't read about it in a book about Gilligan's Island. Bob Denver became a real first mate. Bob, who played the show's title character, was already a familiar face to TV audiences before taking on the role. He was Maynard G. Krebs on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis from 1959 to 63. He almost never got the part of Gilligan. Jerry Van Dyke, Dick Van Dyke's brother, was the first choice. He turned it down twice. As he said jokingly,
"That's right, they sent me the script, but I wasn't that crazy about it. All right, I thought it was awful. It's the worst script I'd ever read in my life. And I was looking for a hit, and this sure wasn't it. Besides, my agent had me lined up for a surefire hit. Series called My Mother the Car, guaranteed to last forever. I've had longer showers."
Bob took over. He continued to act until his death at age 70 on September 2, 2005. That was despite having difficulty shaking off the hapless Gilligan persona. Life at sea must have still imprinted itself on him somehow, because he bought a sailboat after the show ended. The skipper had a name and was one tough guy. Alan Hale Jr. was known for playing in many westerns through the 40s and 50s. He eventually became Gilligan's skipper. And the character had a real name. It was Jonas Grumby. He moved on to guest appearances in sitcoms like The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Alf, and Growing Pains. He also opened Alan Hale's Lobster Barrel in 1982 and then Alan Hale's Quality and Leisure Travel Office. He kept working until the day of his death at age 68 on January 6, 1990. Alan went beyond being a dedicated worker. He once broke his wrist while filming Gilligan and didn't tell anyone until a year later. Bob once said, quote, "Doing physical comedy with someone that secure was great." Thurston Howell III has a surprising connection to The Wizard of Oz. The millionaire, Thurston Howell III, was played by Jim Backus. He was a famous voice before he was a famous face. He played Mr. Magoo for years. One of his radio characters, Hubert Updike III, was the basis of his Gilligan's character. He continued to work after the show ended until his death July 3, 1989. He has a surprising connection to another actress who's recognized by her voice. Margaret Hamilton was picked to play the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz almost by random. Before that, she was a schoolteacher, and she just so happened to teach Jim in grade school. How old was Lovely Howell? Natalie Schafer played Thurston's wife, Lovely Howell. She'd already been a Broadway and film star before Gilligan's Island. After it ended, she lived a long life and guest starred in many other projects, including Three's Company, The Brady Bunch, and The Love Boat. She died at age 90, April 10, 1991. For years, no one knew how old she actually was. She lied about her age for years, saying she was born in 1912 when she was actually born in 1990. There were multiple Gingers. Tina Louise is the only member of the original cast who's still alive. She's best known for playing the movie star Ginger Grant, though she had parts in films such as The Wrecking Crew and The Stepford Wives. She appeared in TV shows like Kung Fu, Dallas, and Married with Children. 3 other actresses also took up the mantle of Ginger Grant. Kit Smythe played her in the pilot. Judith Baldwin and Constance Forsland played her in Gilligan's Island TV films. Russell Johnson insists,
"The wonderful thing about this cast was the chemistry. It worked."
That might not have applied to all the cast members. There were rumors that Tina didn't get along with her castmates and didn't want to return for those films. The Ginger versus Mary Ann debate. Dawn Wells played the kind ingenue Mary Ann, a foil to the fiery Ginger. She was a former Miss Nevada, but wasn't a show business veteran like the other cast members. Her other appearances include The Love Boat, Growing Pains, and Baywatch. She died at age 82, December 30th, 2020. There was an ongoing debate in the fan base over which girl they preferred. Tina wanted to escape her character, but Dawn leaned into the rivalry. She reportedly had a t-shirt that read, "Ginger or Mary Ann, the ultimate dilemma." She also once said, quote, "You can go anywhere and say Ginger or Mary Ann. You don't have to say what show it is. Everyone gets it, and I always win." The Professor and Gilligan's early connection. Russell Johnson played Professor Roy Hinckley. His harebrained schemes to get off the island were a large part of his charm. He was typecast after the show, but managed to appear in other projects such as Gunsmoke, Wonder Woman, and MacGyver. He died at age 89, January 16, 2014. Russell also had acting experience before the show. He had a connection with his castmates. He had already worked with Alan Hale in 1955's Many Rivers to Cross. The Gilligan's Island Lagoon is now a parking lot. The Lagoon set is an iconic piece of film history. It was also used for other shows like St. Elsewhere and Evening Shade. In 1995, executives decided to pave it over and add more parking space to the CBS Studio Center. Don Wells responded, "They've paved over a lot of memories as far as I'm concerned." Gilligan inspired a novel. Fan fiction from TV and films is common. Gilligan's Wake, published in 2003, is a bit different than the norm. The title is a play on the classic 1939 James Joyce novel Finnegan's Wake. It doesn't adapt the plot of the show, but instead uses it as a general jumping-off point. You could say the inspiration is quite loose. It's more of an examination of how stories can affect the world than anything. The author says, quote, "I never had any special attachment to the show. What fascinates me is that even if you never cared about Gilligan's Island, those 7 familiar faces are just branded into your brain anyway. They're familiar to you." Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite episode? Let us know in the comments section below.